remember.
Hi everybody, welcome to episode 34 of Satellite 664. I'm one of your co-hosts, Kaz Tagyan, and as always I'm joined by Mr. Paul Lindop in
G'day.
Berkshire, United Kingdom, and my mate 1 hour down the coast on the, 1 hour down the highway on the beautiful surf coast in Victoria, Mr. Matthew Ward. Good evening, lads. Good day to you, Paul. It's 10:30 in the morning for you, I think, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
All right. So look, Happy New Year, everyone. We've been a while since we've done one of these, so Happy New Year, and let's hope it's a good year for everyone. We were just speaking off air, and it's less than 4 months now. Less than 4 months until the new tour kicks off, and the speculation about set lists just will not stop. So. Arguably, it's one of the most anticipated tours in a long time, and in just under 4 months, we will know whether Alexander the Great will be played or not. So, and forever that can be put to bed.
We hope, yeah.
We hope, but in the wake of the release of Beast Over Hammersmith and the 40-year. Number of the Beast release, we as we love doing on this show, we love talking about the merchandise and in particular the tour shirts of the tours of that era, and that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about 1982 tour shirts. Certainly the best ones, certainly the ones that tell a story, they tell a narrative about that era and that tour. So, and who else better than Matt Ward to pilot this ship, hey?
Awesome.
Go for it, mate.
What we all love about in 82 shirts and stuff is, I think it's like a combination of Maiden at the time, where just, they dropped Number of the Beast, blew everyone out of the water, and they backed it with a range of merch that blew everyone else out of the water as well. It's like an awesome combination of music and art, and those shirts hold up all these years later. It's just as awesome pieces of artwork.
Matt, would you say the 1982 tour shirts were heralded the beginning of what became sort of the Maiden's sort of formula for the 80s and beyond for tour shirts, where in particular the whole concept of event shirts, venue-specific shirts, city-specific shirts, having Eddie, I suppose, assume the local culture of where they're playing?
Absolutely. I mean, it was totally the beginning of that, and there was a number of elements that came into play in the Maiden world, especially in the shirt world, that became traditions that Maiden would keep putting out throughout the 80s. I mean, even in terms of like the main artworks, Derek Riggs would put out. He had the album cover, he'd have the tour artwork, the two singles. That became like the main formula for all the 80s, and the shirts would back that as well. So yeah, it was definitely the beginning of the Maiden trend, and there's a lot of trends that they still stick with today that started in 82. So
this is correct.
Had anybody else sort of done that before then?
Well, this is the interesting point. So I reckon on the US probably 81 tour, I reckon either Rod Smallwood or the merch company Great Southern, they would have chatted about this. There were a few Kiss shirts from 1980. Specifically, there was I know there's a famous Texas shirt. Would have like the Dynasty album cover on the front with the heads, and then on the back it had a map of Texas with the dates around. I reckon maybe Def Leppard may have done one as well on their first tour of the States as well. And it was definitely sort of just coming to fruition. I think Maiden jumped on that and just turned it
to another level. Yeah.
I'm very happy to be corrected by fans of on this by sort of fans of other bands, but yeah, Matt, you're right. I think Kiss, from memory, they also did in 1977 when they released Alive 2 from their show at the LA Forum. Actually did an event specific shirt for that one gig. And that's rare as hen's teeth now. I mean, rare. So I don't recall, I really don't, whether Rush or Rolling Stones or anybody
Well,
else did anything like that.
The Stones definitely did them in '81.
Did they?
I think that they did a few, US cities especially. There's like a shirt. I think it's just a different back. So the front print was the same, and then the back print would be one for Philadelphia or Los Angeles, New York.
Yeah.
So so it was all sort of happening at the time, I think. But Maiden sort of took it to that artwork, combined it with a specific artwork that nobody else had.
Yeah,
thanks to Derek Riggs at the time.
Yeah, because it put Eddie in that local environment of where they were playing, whether it's, without spoiling anything, whether it's sitting by a cactus tree or, riding a shark or something like that. So
that's right.
But I hear or read somewhere that Derek didn't do some of those event shirts that they were.
The later ones he didn't. So that's why '82 is really important, because they were pretty much the bulk of Derek Riggs' event shirts.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul, I think what you're referring to is the '87 US shirts where they basically took they took Eddie's Somewhere on Tour head and they just basically replaced it with different bodies of
shirt. Yeah,
that's right. So pretty much '83 onwards was just the Capitol Records artists or the Great Southern merchandise artists making all these shirts up for Maiden.
Yeah, because we spoke on one of the other episodes in '87. You had the Somewhere on Tour Eddie head on Clint Eastwood's body, on a Canadian hockey player's body, on an American football player. It just varies. But whereas what you're saying, Matt, is this was consistently Derek Riggs's ideas and artwork. So, well, all right, mate. Do you want to start us off? Just start us off on these. This has got some great shirts to talk about.
Cool. Well, I mean, obviously the tour kicked off in Europe, UK and Europe, and just like they did in the year before when they did the Killers tour. The Killers tour, they only had one design on a shirt and a sweater. Print all the tour dates on the back of the shirt, and there you go. You're off all the way through Europe. Run out of shirts, you don't have to change the print design. You just reprint the same thing and you're done. So, flash forward 12 months. Come to the Number of the Beast. They have two designs this time on a shirt and a sweater. This time you got the album shirt and then obviously the tour art. And again, print the full tour dates on the back of one shirt, and there you go. That's all we got for Europe and the UK.
So effectively, by putting all the countries on the back of the shirt, you've sorted your whole tour out for that year, basically.
Yeah. That's pretty much it for the whole European tour. That's just the one design.
Wow. Which is the Eddie putting the Union Jack on top of the world and then the album cover.
That's right.
Which we're showing here. Yeah.
And, I mean, you've got to say, the cool thing about those European artworks is they show the full art. You get, a full front picture of the artworks, full colour, and they were awesome. They may not have had the Americans tweaked them and made the circle design shirt for America, but as brutal as cool as they look, you don't get the full artwork effect that you get on the European shirt.
So Matt, the circle designs first came in '82 in the US, is that correct?
81. So the Killers American shirt was the first time you got a full circle pick.
Wow. So it was more of a US initiated design.
Definitely Great Southern merchandise in America came up with that one, yeah. That's obviously a formula they stuck to, and it somehow worked. And the circle with the Maiden picture and little bits hanging out the circle, it went on to define Maiden shirts in the '80s in America. They stuck with it, and even today, everyone loves the circle designs on tour now. It's one of those traditions that sort of began in the early '80s, and they kept to it.
Which we're going to go on to next, I suppose. The circle from the US, right?
Totally. So if you've just seen the two designs the European tour had, they hit America, and you had the same two designs, obviously tweaked for the American market, but instead of having one shirt and one sweatshirt, you've just got this crazy array of different garments and crazy style shirts, and it was just amazing, foot to the floor from here on.
Talk us through some of these.
Well, this is an interesting one as well because it really only happened in '82 that you get the designs printed on such a crazy range of different styles of garments. I'm not sure whether if the merchandising deal with Great Southern, it's almost like they were just had license to print Maiden shirts on anything they had lying around, like end of line stock or whatever, just print on some Maiden and get it out. Because things toned down a bit in '83 onwards. There wasn't like this insane amount of different styles of shirts. I mean, this is what makes '82 shirts so collectible, was there were so many different versions of each one. So like these are two main tour arts. There must be 8 or 9 of each one. It's just so I picked one of each just to illustrate them in closer detail.
Yeah, so
my favourites of each one.
We spoke before about Eddie being part of the local scenery and local culture, and then the New York shirt. He's near the Empire State Building. So
yeah, New York middle of the year was probably like the first, I guess, bona fide state or city based event shirt that they did with the specific artwork. And what's cool about it is when they took the sketch from Derek's sketch from the middle of the tour book, when Eddie's like leaning up on the cabinet with all the crew heads and stuff in it. And I love how they kept that sort of sketch style. Someone's just hand drawing the Empire State Building. It's sort of minimal colours, and it just worked brilliantly. It's one of it's probably one of my favourite shirts of all time. This one. Yeah. I think I had a postcard of Steve Harris wearing it. I think it was from Hammersmith '83, that live shot, and I just had it on stuck on the wall above my desk, and I'd be doing homework, through high school, just looking at this picture, just going. And it was cool enough that you could make out what it said. You could see enough to say the Beast in New York, and go, fuck, how cool is that? How do I find one of these shirts?
That's quite a famous
picture. Didn't Steve wear it on the promo videos?
He wore the Number of the Beast one, the same rugby style shirt. I think on the Trooper.
On the Trooper, yeah, the white with the black on the top.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's just a whole bunch of good, awesome live pics of him wearing the New York one.
The New York one,
on the tour, and then he obviously kept it for the next tour as well. And those live pics from Hammersmith it was just on my wall as like a dream shirt. It took me 20 odd years to actually finally land a real one. It was amazing. And one of those great moments in collecting.
Don't you love those moments? And then following the US, I guess the US concept, Texas, Eddie's always in some sort of desert environment with cactus trees.
Well, so Texas is probably, you get Derek front and back artwork on this one. It's probably the most detailed of the '82 event pictures that he did. Eddie, he's got a sombrero on, the hat, he's drinking tequila. He's about to eat an armadillo. It's pretty cool.
The '82 Shark, that's California, isn't it?
The Shark was for the West, the California West Coast shows, yeah.
And
what's interesting is they changed the Shark when Derek's original picture, which we can probably show on here as well, his original Shark was, a lot more streamlined, and they used it on, I heard used it on the back of the Australia 08 shirt.
Yeah.
As a homage to Derek's original picture.
Yeah.
But I think they deemed it not shark enough, and they changed. They got the capital artist guys to redraw it more like the classic Jaws, Great White. So,
which to be honest, I'm surprised they didn't use the shark design for the Australia tour. I mean, everybody knows Australia has one of the greatest population of great white sharks in the world, along with South Africa. So.
I know, right? So if we're talking events, so obviously the famous. You had the Australian T-shirt artwork from '82, the famous unused artwork of Eddie slaughtering kangaroos.
Kangaroos, yeah.
And it's funny because it's right. He's got the Cooper hat on. Awesome picture. Right?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Just to explain to our audience, it's a fantastic piece of artwork. I love it. But 1982 in this country was, in 1982, this country was, shall we say, very conservative. And I can see that artwork probably wouldn't have gone down too well, of Eddie slaughtering effectively a national.
The kangaroo's on our coat of arms.
It's on our coat of arms. It has been has been since Federation. So, I think that probably would have, made Channel 9 news at that time. And I think because it was the band's first tour here and it was selling quite well, they decided to go with the old stock Eddie leaning on the flag.
It'll be interesting to know if to actually know the truth. Was it because of that, or was it because maybe it simply didn't work well on a black T-shirt or whatever? It just didn't look as good. Who knows?
I think it's a magnificent piece of artwork. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
And yet, ironically, the kangaroos in this country are pests, and people go and shoot them all the time. So,
what's interesting about that artwork as well? I was actually chatting to Derek on his website. It would have been about 10 years ago. I think someone had posted that picture and he was confirming that he painted it for the Australian shirt. And I was actually replying that it was never used as a shirt. Derek Riggs had no idea that it was never actually put into print out here. He was paid for it and he just assumed they used it and he had no idea 30 years later that it wasn't put into shirts. It's amazing.
Matt,
did it ever pop up as a shirt later on?
Not an official shirt. I think there's been
just a bootleg.
There's a few boots that have come out from Europe, I think.
Because I've seen it online. But, yeah.
Well, now
I assume that it was part of the old, the ones you get with like the metal collection on the back.
Yeah, I think they did a really good version of it back in the late 90s. Or whatever. It's cool.
They did. I remember that.
Yeah.
Matt, tell us about the festival shirt, the Reading shirt, that camo.
Okay, so midway through the US tour, I guess Maiden famously returned to headline the Reading Fest, and again another awesome piece of Derek art to capitalise on that, to create the Reading '82 event shirt. I mean, look, it's simple, but it's brutal. I mean, it's obviously just Eddie just wielding his guitar and smashing the pole with all the cities listed on it from the tour, but only available, I guess, on the day at the gig.
Wow.
And then the leftovers were sold off through the fan club, which I have found a little advert, I think, in one of the music magazines advertising those two. Because there was a camouflage sleeve jersey and the grey T-shirt. And also, interestingly enough, Maiden was selling off 82 shirts on the 83 US tour as well.
Wow.
I know a couple of guys who bought that. They were selling off cheap on the Peace of Mind shows as well. So, yeah.
Wow.
Was that in the US only?
Just in the US, as far as I know, yeah.
And in 2020...
Just random places. I think some guy got one in Portland, or somewhere in Philadelphia, I think. Just, they were selling a couple of Texas shirts, the camos. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I'm trying to cast my mind back to Hammersmith 83, and I bought the General tour shirt, the World Peace Tour shirt. That's all I can remember, really. They had obviously one with Peace of Mind cover on it, and the World Peace Tour. That's all I can remember.
Have you still got it?
It was a long time ago. No.
So this is the thing that you face like all these years later, where you're trying to, ascertain what was sold where and stuff, and who can remember?
You can't.
The exact stuff that was on sale visually, unless someone's taken a photo, which is very rare to have happened back in those days.
You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, as 18, 19-year-olds, back then you go to the show, and I mean, you just glance at the merch stand, and you don't take a photographic image of what's there, because you don't know that 30 years, 35, 40 years later, this is going to be that this whole trip is going to turn into a point, an important point of discussion for collectors. You just don't realise it at the time.
That's right. Yeah. I was like that at the 80s shows. I'd rock up to the merch stand. Oh, I like that one. That's the one I want.
Yeah.
Oh, literally, and then you don't remember the other stuff.
No,
that's right.
I remember the white one. I remember the white Power Slave Eddie on it.
Oh, the Pharaoh. Mm.
That's the one that Kaz needs.
I need that
I
shirt.
remember that one.
I
And
need
I
that
got the general. I got the general one. I used to just get by the general tour shirt.
Yeah.
I think I didn't start getting multiple shirts until probably 88 on the 7th. So I got the Donington one, because it was a Donington. I got they call it the clairvoyant, don't they? With the candles and the crystal ball. I've got that one at Hammersmith. I've got another one, I can't remember what it was. But like you're saying, I didn't start buying multiple shirts until probably then.
And you probably didn't know that there was all these variations of shirts that collectors years later would talk about, the trademark being here and, the print being lower set.
Yeah.
And
No, don't, because the only one I've got from that era that still survives is the Donington one. Every other shirt I got from the 80s got binned.
Yeah.
Because I wore them to death. The Donington one I wore on the day and never afterwards, really. And every other one, it was like either so faded or ripped or whatever that I just wore them to death, and they got thrown in the bin.
But that's what we did, right? I mean, like, I had all these other bands, Motorhead, Megadeth, Metallica shirts from back in those days, and you were wearing these things every day. It's just,
Do you know what? Because as a 15-year-old, you think that 1988 will just last forever. You think that in perpetuity, this will be your normal state of living. And 15-year-olds, 15, 16-year-olds don't actually think that times change and the world will change. And,
that's right.
You just, I'll put my hand up and confess. That was my mindset back then. That's why, like you guys, I binned some of my shirts back then as well. It's just something you did. And then 35 years later, you think, oh shit, I had that. I had this, I had that.
Yes,
and
definitely.
then who are these people that actually kept it so mint and some great condition now, and it all of a sudden pops up on eBay or Etsy or Facebook or somewhere? Who are these people that kept it?
Amazing that it can happen, but I've spoken to some guys who used to go to pub gigs in the UK, and there'd be like two brothers, so they'd go and buy a shirt each, and sometimes they would just wear the one shirt and they'd share the shirt, pack one away, and they never end up wearing the second shirt, whatever,
Yeah.
And then they go back to, and these things are left packed away in mum and dad's attic somewhere or whatever, and there they stay until they go back and clear out the house, whatever. And they find these things lying around.
That's right. And
I think I've mentioned to Kaz before when I went to Keith's mum's house in the East End, where they sold the sound house tape from.
Yeah.
And he had tour jackets in there from '86 that were given to him for, I think he was given to his mum and dad. Yeah. And they were pristine condition in the wardrobe, never been touched. And that was probably, when was that? That was 2016. So they'd been there for 30 years and literally untouched. 86 tour jackets, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. And I mean, there's a lot of world slavery shirts floating around, isn't there? Because they did 180 concerts on that tour. 180. So there's a lot of merch that was sold.
That's right.
And there's a lot of guys who would have just bought it and worn it a few times and stored it in their parents' attic.
Yeah.
And then years later, they go to clear it out and find these dusty shirts, but in great condition.
Yeah. But are the 82 shirts rarer? Because obviously in them days they weren't headlining the States, were they? They were a support band.
That's right. So there's far fewer of them.
There's far fewer because
overall,
the demand would have been, and you can probably expect it for the headline act to sell more merch, and the support act. How many times have you been to a gig and bought a support act shirt?
Never.
Exactly.
I don't think I've ever.
I don't think I ever have.
That's right. And so, like, obviously, Maiden had their small pocket of fans, which they started in 88 and 81 in the States, and obviously their artwork was screaming off these shirts in 82. So they were selling a bunch of shirts, I suppose. But they were going out supporting Rainbow 38 Special and Foreigner and all these people. So
yeah.
And I guess Maiden shirts were so cool. who would buy one if it was your favourite little support act and not wear it? That's the other thing. Like
Yeah.
82 shirts in good condition are really hard to find.
Yeah. No, but was it? I'm going back to the Texas shirt. Was the Texas one was the first one they did sort of multiple versions of it, like they had the camo sleeve. I've seen a green one.
Well, it was the first two. The main two artworks were the same. Like so, the Number of the Beast and the Beast on the Road. There's 8 or 9 different versions of different garments of those, and Texas is the same. There's almost just as many for that design as well. And as I said, it's really only happened in '82 for some reason. Even we can show those crew shirts I've got like a family picture of the crew shirts. Again, there isn't one normal garment amongst them. There's like that red football shirt, there's a tan work shirt, a silky polo, and some crazy polyester sweatshirt things. There wasn't just like a standard T-shirt in there. I'm like, why was this happening in '82? Just '82?
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying did they do? I don't know whether it was a tour shirt, but didn't they do one with the prisoner on it, with the bike, with the white one with the bike and?
There was, and like some quotes from the TV show, and I think
that wasn't a tour shirt, though, was it?
I think someone quizzed Keith Wilford about it recently, because we posted a picture of it somewhere on Facebook. It was sold through the fan club in '83, so it was like a 1983 new style. And Keith was saying it was never meant to be a Maiden shirt; it was more of a prisoner because of the song. They were sort of releasing a prisoner sort of base shirt. How cool would it have been if there was like an Eddie drawn specifically for it to make it more of a Maiden shirt, I guess, but because there's never a Maiden logo on it.
Really. No, that's right.
Matt, the crew shirts you just mentioned, they're the ones that also had so Eddie on the backs, and it said World Tour '82-'83, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah. So all those the main two artworks shirts had '82/'83 on the back.
So it was the red, the tan, the black, and the grey, wasn't it?
That's right. I mean, a funny point, because it always comes up in conversation, was the tour planned to go into '83, but we know that it wasn't what we've heard. They'd already had it mapped out year by year, so I think that was more of a merchandising thing from Great Southern, maybe to allow them to sell the shirts in '83 as well. I don't know. And as it turns out, they ended up selling, like those the main two designs, they ended up selling them all the way through the '80s anyway. You could still buy them in metal mags, mail order.
You could.
Record stores up until, post Summer in Time over there. That's how popular they were. So.
And in 2023, the camouflage sleeve shirts are pretty much can sell for the price of a car, can't they? Effectively.
Sorry, because you cut out right then.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Yeah, you cut out.
No,
sorry.
I was going to say, in 2023, those camouflage sleeve shirts can sell for the price of a small car in some instances.
It's insane.
Why is that, though? Why those camouflage shirts in particular?
I think, maybe because they're the most way out looking shirt that Maiden maybe ever did in terms of garment wise. Tan body, camouflage sleeve. And I think the demand from collectors, from especially overseas in the Asian markets, is phenomenal to try and own those. So they've been bumping the prices steadily up since the early 2000s, really.
Yeah. I think you almost feel sorry for anybody starting collecting vintage stuff now at this point.
It would be impossible.
Yeah.
Unless you just won the lottery.
You have to be a lottery winner. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Yeah, and especially to go deep in it. Good. All right. I think the next up is our shirt, isn't it, from November '82? So
we basically touched base on the Australian shirt before the Killing Kangaroos artwork wasn't used, and obviously we got the back print, if you like, of the US shirt, which in a way we should touch on first because it's set in motion another one of the great Maiden shirt traditions of the changing flag on a shirt for the country. So the US shirt had the same Eddie from the middle of the tour book again, leaning on the shirt. Also on the US shirt, and then they went to Canada. They changed that flag to the Canadian shirt. It could have been a better designed flag because it was kind of limp and there's no wind in it, so you don't actually see the whole flag. It's a bit poorly designed from that perspective. But it's the first time they used it, and obviously when they came to Australia, they changed it to the Australian flag. And that became the front artwork, and that became the Australian event shirt, Unleash the Beast Down Under, you know.
And we had 4 versions of that back then, didn't we?
Well, that's from a collecting point of view. This is another cool little thing that there was never 4 shirts on sale at any one gig. There was only 3, and at some point, one of those shirts has been cancelled or changed. And I think there is a version with the Beast on the Road sticking the flag in Australia, and the Australian flagpole backprint, which does follow the tradition of the American and the Canadian shirts. But I think maybe somehow that shirt was turned into 2 separate shirts. If that makes some kind of weird sense.
Wow.
I don't know why, but who knows.
And they were quite robust shirts too, the Australian tour shirts, weren't they? Like the
Australian shirts are thick.
Yeah,
really thick, heavy on the poly, I guess, poly cotton.
Yeah.
Super stretchy, and they're really hard wearing. Like, to get one of those shirts like worn out, it must be, you can just wear the crap out of it. And so they hold up really well, I have to say, which is good.
Yeah.
Have they got the correct tour date on?
Well, they got away with it by just having the countries on the back and they had Australia, so that there wasn't any specific dates on any of those shirts.
All it said is Australia.
We had a discussion recently.
We did,
didn't we, Kaz, about the exact dates and where they played in Australia in '82.
Correct. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
And I believe
because some differ from the other, don't they? Some say this, some say that. It's all different.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I think the program was correct though, wasn't it? They had all the dates in. The Aussie tour program had the dates in correct order.
That's
think,
right.
Didn't it?
That's right. Yeah, and I think the thing that always confuses people with Australia is it's not so much the big cities that cause the confusion. It's this isolated one gig that they might have played in a small town, which sort of raises conjecture. And this is both in '82 and '85. Did they play this small town? Did they not play this small town? It kind of, that's where the confusion is, isn't it? So, because the Lismore controversy was from '85, wasn't it?
Well, Lismore was the original gig that was booked there, which was cancelled to join it to Brisbane.
And the '82 confusion is Wollongong, I believe, or Wagga Wagga.
Well, '82, thanks to the Flight 66 DVD, really, I guess, because you got Dave Murray saying that they stopped in Wagga and, table 42, your stakes already, or whatever it was in Wagga. But I honestly just reckon he's confused that with the Workers' Club in Wollongong.
Well, I think so too.
We got people in Wagga who say there was no show in '82 there,
That's right. Wollongong, Wagga Wagga. It's easy to get confused, isn't it? Especially 35 odd years later, 40 years later.
There is that great shirt. Speaking of this, back to the '82 Australian tour. There's a great rarity shirt that's popped up. Is the Radio 10 promo shirt from Brisbane.
Yeah.
I've been trying to research, find out what involvement Radio 10 had in the concerts. They used to be an AM station and they were bought out at the start of the year and they became an FM station. There was a lot of money backing them that year. So they obviously got behind the tour in some capacity. I don't think I've been in touch with some old people who were in the radio station in the mid '80s, and they don't think any of the show was broadcast. It would have been too heavy for the network back then. But they may have been giving away tickets. Who knows? They may have had a stand at the gig enough to have a promo shirt made up for it. So yeah, phenomenal rarity.
I mean, they may have been promoting the tour anyway. I mean, I remember. Would they have had any link with Eon FM? Because I remember in '85, I remember very clearly, it was Eon FM, wasn't it? That was promoting the slavery tour. So I'm wondering in Brisbane, in Queensland, which is a state in Australia, whether it was that
station. That was like the equivalent. Yeah, that could have been
correct. Because Eon FM was only local for us.
That's right.
Yeah, so who knows? But I think through the process of deduction and reasoning, we can come to these conclusions, can't we? Japan. Tell us about Japan.
Japan, last stop on the tour. And again, their own artwork. Japan, obviously promoted by Udo artists, and obviously Great Southern Co. or neither them or Bravado obviously had the rights to print merch in Japan, so it was all done in-house over there, we believe. Rockstar was the label, and they did the merch on the Killers tour, and it was all sort of in-house with Udo artists at the time. But we think, I've been checking and touching base with like Japanese collectors. These shirts, they were available at the time. They were on the merch sheet that was given out with the program at the concerts. But I don't know if you guys know Inui, one of the great Japanese collectors. He was throwing doubt as to whether they were actually sold inside the concert halls on the tour.
Right.
But he can't find any verification as to if they weren't, what shirts were, or anything. So I can't say 100% that they are from inside the venues, which is interesting. Because the Rockstar, the label, kind of split from Udo and created, or they opened a store in Tokyo. And through that store and through mail order pages in the Japanese rock magazines all the way through the 80s, they became like the biggest seller of rock and heavy rock merch out of Tokyo, just internally in Japan.
Is this Japan 82 shirt hard to come by, man?
Any Japanese merch is incredibly hard to find.
Actually, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Certainly the Slavery 85 and even the Japan 87 shirts are not the easiest to find. No, it's not to say they never come up. They're not the easiest to find.
I mean, one of the benefits of obviously the internet breaking down all these walls of international travel for collectors and stuff is things show up from around the world. It's more often these days because of online sales and stuff. So.
Correct. Before, earlier in the show, we were talking about Maiden being a support act and sort of selling their own shirts. There's one unique shirt that you're going to talk to us about, which has got 38 Special and Maiden on it. Tell us about that one.
I used to refer to it as the twin flag shirt because I never saw the back print until I actually found a copy of the shirt.
Now, this is the shirt Adrian Smith is wearing on the Peace of Mind photo shoot, isn't it?
That's right. So famously, there's some awesome... That's right. Famously worn in the Flight of Icarus clip by Adrian. And there's a couple of awesome photo shoots from late 82, particularly in Japan, where he's wearing it. And that's really the only time you see it. Obviously on the back of the single Flight of Icarus, he's still wearing it on that photo on the back of the 7-inch. And yeah, I always referred to it as this twin flag shirt. Never quite understood what it was until seeing the back. And it was obviously printed up by 38 Special as a thank you to Maiden for being such awesome support act on their part of the tour. It's amazing. Another crazy rarity. Yeah.
So that shirt was put out by 38 Special. It wasn't a tour shirt as such.
That's right. It wasn't sold at Maiden shows. And it's interesting because they obviously got it printed through Great Southern Merchandising, I would say, as well. And on the back, it has like the 38 Special logo at the top, the Maiden logo's underneath it. But the Maiden logo does have a little TM, I think, or an R next to it, so as to make it the registered trademark logo. So totally official.
So back in 1982, how would one have got one of those shirts? How would one have had access to one of those shirts?
Well, I imagine it was only they would have been printed. I mean, how many were they printed to give to Maiden and their team? 20, 30, 40? Who knows? Handed to the band and crew. So I guess if you knew one of the band well or one of the crew members well.
And how many are surviving? I wonder.
Great question.
I mean, there's one.
Not many, I presume.
I've only ever seen the one out in the flesh, which is the one I've got. I imagine some of the band members would still be hanging on to them. You'd think, but
Wow.
And maybe some of the crew might hang on to them as well.
Wow. That blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. And just to clarify, I think Adrian was also wearing it on the actual Peace of Mind in a sleeve photo shoot, wasn't he? When they're in the corridor.
So he's definitely that photo that's on the back of the single. He's at the bottom of the staircase, and he's got his.
That's it. That's what I'm talking. That's the one.
His hands on his hips, I think. Yeah, you can see it.
I think he's wearing it in the promo video as well.
He's definitely wearing it in the clip. Yeah, it's wicked. You're just hanging for him to turn around, but he never does.
I can't remember when the inner gatefold when they're at the dinner table. Is he wearing it then? I can't remember. I cannot remember. But anyway,
I don't know.
Homework. We'll go have a look. All right. Now, I erroneously thought the Dental Floss Salesman shirt was, or No, We're Not an English Rock Band shirt, was from a couple of years after, from sort of slavery era, but in fact it was from 82.
So this is another one of those trends that started in 82, and Maiden kept it going every US tour, through the slavery tour.
Oh.
So this was the first time they did it. This was that classic Frank Zappa Montana reference on the back with the big dental floss salesman. And obviously, the famous story is they got sick of being hassled at airports and things, people asking them if they're in bands, in a rock band and stuff. So they had the famous slogan put on the shirt, "No, we are not in an English rock band," or whatever. And obviously, so they continued this each year. I think we did the 83 one when we did the Peace of Mind tour merch.
That's right.
I think there was two from the slavery tour, probably one for 84 and one for 85. So.
That's great.
And another one that is crazily hard to find. But I think they reprinted this one. Would have been the early days, I think. Early days tour, they actually reprinted a version of this.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Honestly, we've
I've got one.
In a very short time, we've actually covered a lot of shirts, and I must say, other than the odd one here and there, you hardly see any of these rock, sort of turn up. I mean, yes, there's on eBay. There's always one or two consistently priced for, something ridiculous like $5,000. But generally, you don't see these come up too readily, do you?
No, they're getting harder and harder to find. The ones that are out there, like a lot of them are already in the hands of collectors, and you've got to do your networking and stuff with other collectors because some people sell at different times. Not everyone holds onto the stuff to the ends. Like a good way of picking up shirts is being there at the right time when someone sells a few pieces from their collection, and if you've already been chatting to them about shirts over the a few years beforehand.
It goes with anything, really, doesn't it? It goes with any collectible,
right.
Whether it's a poster or a shirt or just or God knows what, anything really. It can come up. Your little so-called holy grail can come up at any time, at any stage.
And that's the addiction of collecting too, though, isn't it? Because you got to be vigilant with your searches. Because the day that you don't check your searches is that day your grail shows up and someone buys it for $100 or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's gone.
I've had some of the most unbelievably rare and incredible items come up. Like you said, it's sort of 2 a.m. You get up to go for a piss, and you just decide to look at your searches, and boom, there's something there. Or it's Christmas Day, and you're just bored, and you go and look at your searches, and there's this shirt you've been looking for, this rare poster you've been looking for. It's so bizarre. It's when you actively seek it, you don't find anything.
That's right.
Right.
And that makes all those months of checking your searches for nothing worthwhile. Because it's the thrill of turning it on and just going, whoa, there it is, quickly, press buy,
What's that saying? Things happen when you least expect it. Huh?
That's it.
Yeah.
I
go on later. I don't have the green St. Patrick's Day slaughter one that I'm after. I know Matthew's got.
From 1991.
91, yes.
The K-Nack one, yeah.
That's got to be probably the best shirt of the tour, I reckon, for sure.
It wasn't an official tour shirt, though, was it?
No.
It was just made by them for that show, and I think from what I was told, that they didn't have permission to do it, so they just took a load and said, right, that's it.
Which is weird, right? Because it's got it's got official copyrights and everything on it. Iron Maiden holdings under the artwork, all that. And it's funny because KNAC did the same kind of thing in '88. They did one of the Iron Curtain Crunch shirt, and they were like handing that out or giving it away at the venue, I think. So it's weird that a KNA shirt would sort of get banned by I don't know. I mean, was it deemed too violent somehow for taking the piss?
I can't remember. Someone told me, someone who worked for the band told me, and I can't remember the full story, but it was something to do with they didn't have permission or something like that, and there was only a few, a handful, probably 20 or 50 that got kept or whatever. I can't remember.
Yeah. No, someone was given the task of destroying them. It's like, we'll have a few of these.
Yeah, someone told me once they used one to wash their car, but there you go.
So when was that? February 91 or March 91?
It was March, wasn't it?
March.
Yeah, St. Pat's Day.
Yeah, I have no idea when St. Pat's Day is. So
March. Yeah. 21st.
Yeah. See, I don't drink, Paul, as you know. So for me, St. Pat's Day, who knows?
Rory, you know.
Rory will know. Rory.
Give him a mention. He'll be happy.
Sorry?
We're giving him another mention, so he'll be happy.
He'll be on the show soon. He'll be coming on the show very soon. Very soon. It's just that we've been too lazy to do it because, well, no, we haven't been lazy. It's just, the end of the year, Christmas, New Year, and, work schedules and all that sort of stuff. And, we're always grappling with... I find doing these shows during Australian summer is the worst time because we're now 11 hours ahead of you. And I find when the time difference is even an hour and a half less, it's actually a little bit easier to coordinate times. So, but yes, no, Rory will come on at some stage. But have we covered all the shirts from '82? Have we?
Well, just about. I want to touch base on one other one, and we were talking just before about finding your grails and things popping up that you've never seen before. And it would have been, I don't know, probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I got a link sent to me by another collector of mine in Malaysia going, check out this early bootleg from America, this red T-shirt. And I had a look and it was like, buy it now for $150 or whatever it was. And the Eddie, obviously, it didn't look like a Derek Riggs Eddie. It was like, it had this boogie with Iron Maiden, but it had the Harvest logo next to the
Harvest, yeah.
And so I've just gone, bang, I'm going to buy it anyway. Bootleg or not, hey, it looks cool. There's a Harvest logo I want to check out a lot more closely, so I bought it in. And the guy who sold it to me said it came from a press guy who worked for one of the press newspapers out of Detroit, I think, or somewhere in Michigan. And he said it was a mail order shirt at the time, but he couldn't remember for sure. And that's all the information I had. And I started, showing the picture around and asking people about it. And it was another collector mate came back with a link to the Kalamazoo in-store appearance that Maiden did on the '82 tour at Boogie Records in Michigan.
Wow.
Now, I'm sure you guys have seen that footage. It's awesome. Little snapshot of the band on the road turning up in their little bus with the Beast on the Road artwork on it and doing a proper in-store. It's heaps of footage. It's wicked. And he's going, check out the guys in the store are wearing the red shirt. I mean, I'd seen that footage years before, and it's kind of all VHS and grainy, and you can't really see too much details. And because the shirt didn't stand out, I didn't pay any attention, didn't even see it as a Maiden shirt. But then when you got the shirt on hand, going back and re-watching all this footage, you can see the guys wearing it at the store.
Wow.
And then, then he did some digging as well and came up with a clear photo of one of the guys behind the counter wearing the shirt on the day. And in the footage at the end, there's a rep from Capitol talking about, or he's a DJ, he's an FM DJ talking about how Capitol had helped sponsor this event. They paid money to put up a T-shirt for it. So it turns out that T-shirt ended up being this crazy event shirt, if you like. Whether it was probably handed out to fans as well on the day for this in-store appearance in Michigan. So with the Eddie on the front is a bit of it's a take on the first Eddie, first album cover Eddie. Would have been done by the in-house Capital Artists guys for this event. Amazing pickup.
Would it be fair to say that's just as rare as the St. Patrick's Day Massacre green shirt?
Probably.
I'd probably say it's even rarer.
Rarer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe rarity comparatively probably to how many of the St. Pat's Day shirts still exist. It's probably on that level, but it's certainly probably, it's probably like in a way the rarest shirt. It's probably as rare as the 38 special shirt easily.
Wow. And for fans under the age of 40, yes, there was once upon a time when Iron Maiden did in stores. Would you believe it's
that's right.
And
they did plenty of them on the 82 tour as well. They had plenty of them. Yeah.
They did, yeah. I mean, it's sort of, you see this Goliath that they've become now, and there's this Goliath of an organisation they've become now, and it's just unheard of for them to do anything like that. But once upon a time, they did. I mean, Matt, you and I, we were at 1992, the Fear of the Dark tour. We lined up, didn't we, outside that record store to say hello to the guys. But you wouldn't think. It just, these days, we forget just how much more approachable, I guess, they were when it came to doing in stores and things like that. They're just there now appears to be this gulf because they're too big. They're too big.
That's right.
They are massive.
What's so good about that footage is it shows, it captures the excitement that the band were creating at the time. Like, there's just flocks of kids there lining up. There's a guy at the front and handing out like promo frisbees and license plates and stuff. You can feel the vibe from inside the store. Everyone's just like in there chanting, singing songs, lining up to get stuff signed. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant piece of footage. I wish there was more footage from these other ones. There's a few photos from other stores. Seeing extra footage is incredible. Yeah.
Paul, back in the 80s, did you... Because I know in this really small UK venues, Oxford, Newcastle, place like that, the fans used to wait in the foyer after the show and the band used to come and meet and greet and sign. Did that ever happen at, London in the Hammersmith shows?
No,
Really?
No. I remember one, I think it was a World Slavery Tour. As soon as that finished, I remember us running around the back of Hammersmith and there was a stage door. And we stood there waiting for ages. And someone come out and said, no, they've gone. We thought, well, they can't have gone. we literally ran from, I think, as soon as the last note had been played. But I don't ever remember any of the shows that I went to ever doing that.
I think they did that more of a thing in the UK. Maybe it's just in the more regional shows.
London Hammersmith was the hometown show, so they would have had throngs of friends and family there. I'm assuming anyway, and it's certainly based on what Loopy's told me in the past as well. They were big things. They had after show parties and whatnot. Whereas in
London was the one, yeah.
Yeah, whereas Oxford, Cardiff, Newcastle, Birmingham, Ipswich, those sorts of places, St. Austell. I mean, these are really small places. They could come out afterwards in the foyer. I mean, one of my friends, Andy, saw them in '84 in Newcastle, and they just came out into the foyer afterwards, signed, took photos. So I think it was in the non-London shows. I haven't heard of them doing that in Europe back then either, at all.
No.
So
London was 82, 83, 84, 86, 88. I did Hammersmith.
1990 Hammersmith?
Didn't go there, and I went to Oxford Apollo, 1990.
Really?
In the city. Yeah, Oxford Apollo I went to. And I went to Wembley at the Christmas time on the No Prayer.
They did
I couldn't get tickets for Hammersmith for that tour.
Wow.
For some reason. Sold out, I think. But, I ended up going to Oxford for that, which I think was the second show of the tour. the Intercity Express tour, they called it.
Intercity Express, yeah.
Didn't do it at that one.
How good was that to see them back in a small venue again? That would have been insane.
Yeah, that was actually, yeah, especially after, well, end of 88, I saw about Hammersmith, so that is still a small venue.
Yeah.
But they also did arenas, didn't they? They didn't go to Wembley Arena, just saw the Hammersmith show. But then, yeah, the 890 was, the Intercity one was just stripped down back to basics, wasn't it? The first part of that tour. So that was good, yeah. That was Oxford I went to, yeah. But no, I don't ever remember them doing that. I don't even remember them doing, like, in-store record store in, them kind of things either. So this is just my memory. I don't know.
It was a very different time. It was a very, very different time. And, they're I call them a Goliath now. They are just such a big band. And especially, I guess, at this stage where most bands of their vintage, of their generation, either don't exist or are doing their, 15th farewell tour, Maiden really are the last of the really big bands now, along with, I suppose, Metallica and a couple other bands. So, it's and I think that accentuates just how big they really are now. They're huge. Whereas back then, they were young guys. I mean, my a relative of mine saw them at the Melbourne show in '82, and I kid you not, after the show, he was hanging out with them at 7-Eleven across the road from the venue, just talking to them, just having a slurp. Have you got 7-Elevens in UK?
Used to.
Yeah, so they had these Slurpees, these drinks called Slurpees. They were like icy sort of drinks. Yeah, he was just having a Slurpee with Steve Harris and having a chat. Just who'd do that now?
It's amazing times. Right? I think the slavery trade here was similar. Kaz, remember we hooked up with Pete Mills.
Oh yes,
Melbourne fan and collector who was at the time. And he went to Maiden, did a couple of video shoots on an Australian TV show called Countdown. And he and his crew went down and hung out with the band while they were filming. They ran through the song a couple of times on stage to film it.
Yeah,
he met the band there. Then after the Melbourne gig, they went and hung out with them at a nightclub.
Billboard nightclub on Russell Street.
Amazing times, right?
Yeah, Billboard nightclub on Russell Street. That was just for the band and the crew.
Yeah.
And they were, again, very, very, very different times. And again, the guys were in their 20s, late 20s, and now they're in their sort of mid 60s. So really different times, different vibe, different era, and never to be repeated again. So what a great discussion about a great era of the band. We absolutely love these. We absolutely love these chats, don't we? About the merchandise, because the merchandise brings back so much imagery and so many memories from an era that, as I just said, will never be repeated again. So until we, what are we going to talk about next? What era of shirts are we going to talk about next? I think we need to do the 1990s. We haven't done.
I'd love to do a full show on just the Killers tour.
Oh, that's what we're going to do next.
There you go. Excellent.
That's what we're going to do.
We haven't done the stepping stone between the local UK band doing well in Europe a little bit here and there, first world tour, and then obviously the next year, 82, we just spoken about going absolutely gangbusters. So it was a really interesting year for merch because different countries had different licensing rights and whatever, and it was. And I just can't get enough. You can never have too many shirts with Killers Eddies on them. They're just like, what an iconic design, right?
And cool that is the next episode. Thank you very much. That will be episode 35. Thank you for planning it all for us. All right, gang. Take care. Thank you again. And we will look forward to seeing you for the next one soon.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.